Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Anna, and I'm with the New Mexico Small Business Development Center. Today, we have Eric Spellman, a public speaker extraordinaire, who will be presenting how to manage your online reputation for free. We'll be using the Q&A function to take questions and welcome attendee participation. So don't hesitate to ask us any questions. Definitely don't be shy. We love questions around here. We'll answer those during and at the end of the webinar, so feel free to use that function at any point in time. Thanks so much for joining us. And without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Eric.
Thank you, Anna. Okay, folks, this is a good one because I get asked this question all the time. It's like, Eric, I saw this thing or heard this thing on the radio or I saw it online where they would like fix all my bad reviews or get rid of all the negatives about me. Should I do this online reputation management? No, oh my gosh, do not do that. Do not do that. You're going to be paying money for something you can do for free. So listen up. I'm about to save you a lot of money and perhaps help how you sound or look on the internet. So let's dive right into it. First of all, what is your online reputation? I mean, when we're talking about that, we know what kind of a reputation is. It's like what people think of you. It's what their view of you is. Well, in the online world, it's a lot of things. It is who you are. It truly is. Or should I say, it's who people think you are. Because keep in mind, who we really are, without getting all psychobabble kind of stuff here, you know, who we present to others is many times different than who we actually are. So it is important that whatever face you're putting forward online is the face you intend to. Because if you don't, if you get this part wrong, your online reputation will suffer. So who you are, and when I say that, I mean to the public. It's also how you interact. And by interact, I mean how you deal with people. In the online space, you're going to be interacting with people. It's not like a billboard where it's a one-way bullhorn and you're saying, hey, everyone, we're having a sale, but you don't hear anything back. No, online is a conversation, especially in the social media sphere. I mean, you're going to be talking to people and they're going to be giving you feedback. You're going to be having conversations. So how you interact with them, and even if you do, is going to play in what people think of you and how people judge you. You know, what are we taught all of our lives? We shouldn't label people. We shouldn't judge people. Well, guess what? It is human nature. It is how we protect ourselves. It is a genetic thing. It is a self-defense mechanism that goes back millions of years. You have to judge people. You have to judge them, judge their threat. You have to just judge them. It is a normal thing. So don't feel bad about that. But the key is you got to realize that everything you do online is someone judging you. Everything you do online, someone is building a description of you in their head. And you may think you're just talking or joking, but I've learned this a lot. People online many times screw up humor because, you know, they may be telling a joke in public, like I'm with you and we're face to face and I'm telling a joke. And so I'm telling you a joke and I think it's funny and you know I'm being funny. But online, if I type it out, you may not realize I'm being funny. Why? Because you can't see my face. I'm not giving you other clues that I'm being sarcastic. You're not hearing the inflection of my voice. You're not hearing the humor. And so if you see me just write something, you may make a judgment about me that is not even true and I was being sarcastic. So how you interact with people is monstrously huge. And the people who make these mistakes, the people who make those humor mistakes are typically those who are new to the internet. It typically is. And I'm sorry to say, but many times it's an older generation who don't realize that sarcasm does not come across in printed text. It's also how you react. People are watching how you react. Like if something happens, if you have a troll on your social media account and they all of a sudden start flaming you, I mean, they just start going in on you. People watch how you react. Remember, it's not just you and them. It's not like they walked up to you in an empty hallway and y'all are fighting it out. No, it's always in the public eye, especially in social media. And so people are watching how you react to trolls, People who are just trying to stir up trouble in your comment section. They're seeing how you react to problems, like people maybe have a problem with your business. And so they share their concern. They're watching your reaction to that. They're watching to see if you're going to say, oh, I don't believe you, or sorry, so bad. Or they're saying, or they hear you saying, you know what, let's figure this out. They're watching your reactions to things. Also, people are going to watch your reaction when bad news happens. So if something goes wrong with your company, if something terrible happens or embarrassing or something, it's kind of like when a food maker suddenly discovers that, they have listeria in their food and they've got to do a recall. How they react is everything. It truly is. And a lot of people, they will bring in like PR firms, someone to actually help, fix those reactions or help them to answer correctly. I mean, we all know stories of Hollywood people who don't act right when bad things happen. And it's actually kind of more entertaining, but let's keep moving. It's also about what you believe. Your online reputation is also about what you believe. Now, we're going to talk about this a little later and about when and where is appropriate for you to share your beliefs. But just know that what you believe is important. And if we've learned anything in these last few years, it's that many times politics can play into that. Beliefs on certain things, like during the pandemic, we saw some very serious divisions amongst people on their beliefs. So keep in mind that your online reputation is affected by those beliefs. But like I said, we'll get to that. So why does online reputation even matter? Unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that it does matter. A lot of people don't care about it. And sad to say, it's among the older group. And it's because they don't spend as much time online as maybe the younger people do. And so they don't see it as a big deal because all their business was done face to face with a handshake, or via contract and totally in the real world. But online, if you're not paying attention to online, oh my gosh, it can burn you. So here's what I tell them. Always remember, people do business with people, not businesses. People do business with people, not businesses. When you're upset with a small business, which is who I'm talking to now, they're usually upset with the owner. They're upset with an employee there. They're upset with a person. They're not upset with the company, unless multiple people there really messed them around. But for the most part, when people are upset with you or concerned, it's usually because of how one employee or even how you, the owner, reacted. So people do this, take it very personally. Even though we're talking about businesses, people see it as doing business with people. And so they always attach a label to that. And that's one reason online reputation matters, is because they see it as a relationship thing. And if you mess up that relationship with these people, if they see your people as mean and rude and unwilling to compromise or work with them or help them, well, guess what? These people are going to go find some other people to do business with. So keep in mind, we're not really talking about the online reputation of your company as much as we're talking about the online reputation of your employees and of you. And keep in mind that label is going to be applied to the company. So if they're getting bad vibes from the majority of your employees, guess what? They're going to ascribe those bad vibes to your entire company. Trust is based on shared values. How many times have I told you in these videos that the number one thing keeping your business from going crazy on the internet, again, successfully wise, is trust. It's a lack of trust. People don't trust you. And it's not that you're distrustful. It's not that you lie. I'm not saying that at all. They just don't have any reason to trust a company they don't know. It's kind of like when you go to a website for the very first time, and I mean the first time. Do you trust them? No. You've never heard of them. You don't know who they are. You don't even know where they are. So you don't trust them. So your mind automatically puts up a barrier. I call this the trust barrier. And in order for them to do business with you, They've got to get over that barrier. You've got to convince them that they can get over the barrier, or, and this is where this comes in, you got to lower the barrier so they can get over. How do you make them trust you? Well, your online reputation plays a big part in that. And if they're seeing that people are talking garbage on you all over the internet, guess what? That barrier just got taller, and fewer new people will do business with you. This is important, people. It matters, because the companies who have the lowest trust barrier have the most customers. Okay? You've got to, the number one thing you've got to improve is trust. You truly do. And one of the best ways is to manage your online reputation. So where are people looking? I mean, we talk about online reputation. Well, that's very broad. That's very vague. What does online reputation actually mean? Where is online? Well, social media is one of the big pieces, okay? And we're going to talk about each one of these. Social media is where you're interacting with people. Social media is where people are giving their experiences and sharing them with other people about you. Online reviews. When people go online and fill out an online review and give you 1 star or 5 stars, say you're the best thing since sliced bread, or that you are evil and should be destroyed. The thing is, those online reviews can either make you or break you. We're going to talk about those. Testimonials. These are kind of like online reviews, except they're always good and they're about you. And we're going to talk about how you get those, because to be honest, that is the golden, that is the golden chalice, and that is what you want, are those testimonials. And we'll talk about how you're going to get those. And then Google searches. Yes, stuff about you is going to come up when people just Google you. And they might Google your name, they might Google your business, but they're going to Google you. And whatever comes up is going to, even if they don't go to your website, it's going to affect their view of you. I can't tell you how many times someone comes up to me after one of my presentations and they say, Mr. Spellman, I need your help. And they're always whispering. And they say, well, every time someone Googles my company, this article comes up. And it's really negative and it's not true and blah, 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 blah. You know, it got fixed a long time ago, blah, blah, blah. And I just don't need this article to come up anymore. Well, a lot of people think that's what online reputation management is, getting rid of the negatives. I'm going to talk about that when we get to Google searches. We're going to talk about some of those negatives and actually how you can make them, I'm not going to say erased, but not seen. Let's just put it that way. And I'm going to give you those tips here coming up. So realize where people are looking is social media, online reviews, testimonials, and Google searches. Your online reputation is being built or hurt by those 4 different things. Let's start with social media. And by the way, if y'all have questions, please ask down in the chat. Ask anytime. You can interrupt me. It doesn't interrupt me. I feel like we're just sitting at a table talking. So it's what you say. Because keep in mind, with social media, you're putting out there, you're saying things. It's not like a website where you built it and maybe you don't post to it all the time, where it's pretty much a commercial message. You know, it's an official message from you. Social media is more like, you know, what you're saying every day, or at least once a week. And so a lot of people are watching what you say. Let's have the conversation. I'm going to have a few of you actually terminate this class after what I'm about to say. I'm going to have a few of you hang up and close this meeting. But you better listen, because I know what I'm talking about here, and I've seen companies get burned by this. Don't you ever, and I'm being totally serious, not sarcastic, don't you ever discuss religion or politics on your business Facebook page. Don't you ever discuss religion or politics and attach it to your business in any way. And let me explain why. And I get pushback for this. I really do. I have people who push back. And yeah, Martha, you're right. Don't discuss COVID. Don't discuss whether people are vaccinated or not. Don't discuss that. There's some very touchy issues right now. And the reason is because your customers have a lot of different beliefs. And if you've been in business a long time, sometimes you assume that all of your customers believe the same way you do, that maybe all of your customers are of the same religion, that maybe all of your customers are of the same politics. You know, they're either all Republican or all Democrat or all believe what you believe. And the point is, they're not. Look at me. They're not. You have customers, a very diverse group of customers that you don't even realize. And the second you take a stand on an issue, the second you take a stand, you are pushing some of your customers away. Did you hear me? Nothing good comes from sharing your religion or politics and ascribing it to your business. You want to do that, do it in your personal account, but don't you dare do it on your Facebook page. You're saying, but Eric, we're a church. Well, of course you're going to. Duh. If what you do has to do with these two things, then of course you're going to. I don't mean not share that. But what I'm saying is, if you're just a normal everyday business, keep your politics and religion out of it, because all you're doing is pushing customers away. You're going to lose business. And you may think that, oh, I'm doing a good thing, you know? And I'm even talking about, some of y'all are going to really disagree with me on this. I'm even talking about putting that little fish symbol on your website or in your social media. You know what I'm talking about. It's not that you don't have the right to do it. You can do anything you want. I'm just telling you, people who do not believe that way are going to feel like you don't connect with them anymore. People who don't believe the same way you do will not feel that you have their best interests anymore. And they will find someone else. So keep your religion and politics out of your business completely. Also, you could run into an issue if you have multiple employees and they don't agree with the same things you do. It's going to hurt them too. It's going to really hurt them. Okay. So just keep the talk about COVID, vaccines, religion, politics out of it. It's also about what they say. Okay. It's also about what they say. And I mean what they're saying about you. Are you even looking at the comments on your social media? I know you're the business owner, but are you even looking at what people are saying about you? Too many times, you know, business owners will go out there and they'll make their post, hey, we're having a special today. And then they just shut down their Facebook and don't even go back till they want to make another announcement. You realize some people are commenting on that. Are you reading what they're saying? I remember one time, this lady said, I don't know what it is. I'm just not getting anything on social media. And I said, well, how are you interacting? And she goes, interacting. She goes, I go out and post my specials. I'm in and out because I got other stuff I got to do. So I open up her social media, and sure enough, I see all of her posts with all of her specials. But what she doesn't see is that she had a troll. Probably could have been one of her competitors, but she had a troll and she was never looking at the comments. This lady was never looking at the comments. And the troll was saying the most awful things. And it was going unanswered because this lady wasn't even looking. And so the sad part is everyone who followed her page was seeing everyone but the lady who owned the company. And it was hurting her. And so I said, you have got to start looking at what people are saying about you. Remember, what have I taught y'all? The goal of social media is to get comments. People ask me all the time, Eric, how do I know if I'm doing social media right? Count the number of comments you're getting. It ain't about the likes. Likes are lazy. Likes are lazy. Likes are lazy. Anyone can click like and not even think about your company. Okay? Many times people do it just to be polite. But if you want the branding, if you want people to be thinking about your company and have you become the top of mind awareness for your industry in their mind, if you want to own their mind as it relates to the products and services you offer, you've got to get comments from them. So you want to know whether you're doing social media right? You count the number of comments you're getting under each post. If you're getting no comments, you ain't doing it right. It's that simple. But if you're getting comments, and by the way, I've done another video on how to get those comments, okay? So out of one of many of these that are out there on the YouTube channel, you can easily find them. So your goal is to get comments, but you've also got to be looking at those comments, and you've also got to be replying to those comments when people make comments, because many times they'll ask you, you know, what about this? What about that? What about this product? Or do y'all have this? You see what I'm saying? You've got to do that. So look at the comments, look at what people are saying. So watch what you say and also watch what they're saying. So which social media should you be monitoring? I get this question too. Eric, I want to do social media for my company, but there's so many out there. I don't have time to do social media all day. I don't have time to do TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook and Twitter and blah, blah, blah. And they start listing all of these random social media platforms. And I'm saying, no, of course not. You shouldn't do them all. That's right. I don't believe you should do them all. I tell people all the time, you need to find out where your audience hangs out and go there. You don't even get to choose your own social media. Did you know that? If you're a business, you don't get to choose your social media. You need to figure out who your demographic is, who your perfect customer is, and you need to find out what social media they're already on, and that's where you need to be going. You don't get to pick it, and your kids don't get to pick it, because it's not about you, it's about your customers. They're the ones who decide what social media your company goes to. You know, and you say, well, how do you know? Oh, Eric, my customers are everybody. I don't have a perfect. Shut up. Everyone has a perfect customer. Here, let me give you how to figure out who your perfect customer is. And next time, don't ever tell me that everyone is your customer, okay? I will slap you verbally anyway. So here we go. Here's how to figure out your perfect customer. I want you to think of your existing customers now, and I want you to think of the one customer you have now by face, and you know who they are. The one customer you have now who you make the most money from and get the least amount of negatives from, the least amount of whining, the least amount of problems. In other words, you make the most money and get the least amount of problems. In other words, if you could clone this person and only do business with the clones, you'd be happy as a lark. Guess what? That's your perfect customer, and that's who you want to attract. People just like that. You don't want everybody as a customer. Trust me, you don't. Because some of your customers are costing you more money than you're making from them. You want the easygoing customers who never call you and just keep paying their bills. Think about it. So once you figure out who this perfect customer is, then you need to go to them and say, what social media do you hang out on? What do you like? What do you not like? You need to study them, because what you want to do is attract people just like them. That's the social media you hang out on. You don't get to pick. Chances are, though, Facebook's going to be one of them. I mean, can we just be honest? Unless your demographic is super young, you know, like millennials and younger, your Facebook is going to definitely be one of your social media platforms. Okay. If you have a really young demographic, you're probably going to go to Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok, something like that. Facebook is definitely going to be a go-to for most adults. Your business page is where you really need to be focusing. And that's where people are going to be going to learn about you. When people search Facebook for your company, guess what's going to come up first? Your business page. And so that's where you need to make sure your online reputation is stellar. That is where you need to make sure that you are monitoring everything that's happening there. That's where you're going to be posting. And remember, for those of you who aren't familiar, in order to use Facebook, you have to create a personal account first, for your name, you as a person. And then once you have the personal account created, you can use that to create a business page. So remember, whatever you do, do not go to Facebook and create a personal account, but put it in your business name. In other words, where it says, enter your first name. So you put your business name instead of your name. No, if Google catches you using a personal account for business, they can cancel you out totally. And trust me, I've had that happen to people. So a personal account must be for personal use. Create a personal account, even if you don't get any friends, even if you never post to it, create a personal account in your name. You don't have to tell Google, Facebook everything. You don't have to tell them what high school you went to and all that. It's going to ask you, but you can just say, no, 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 no. Just create a personal account. Don't even use it, but use it to create a business page. If you really are not liking Facebook that much, then create a personal account with just your name and then create a business page using that. You also got to watch what you're saying in personal. Now, you heard me say, well, personal doesn't matter. Personal doesn't matter. Personal. Yes, it kind of does. Because a lot of you are friending your customers. Don't get me started. Should I friend my customers personally? No, I'm not a fan of your customers being your personal friends on Facebook. Let me explain why. The only friends you should ever have on Facebook are your personal friends, actual friends, people you would consider friends. Now, if some of your customers are actual friends, sure, they're going to be your friends personally. But what you don't want is a customer who you just met in the store for the first time today and them suddenly asking to be your friends on Facebook. They need to go like your business page. Because here's the deal. The only reason they want to be your friends on Facebook is because you gave them a very good experience in your store. You were very nice. You were very helpful. So they reached out to be your friend, or maybe you reached out to them, you little stalker. You reached out to them just wanting to be their friend, but you don't know that they believe the same way you do. You don't know that y'all would be friends in the real world. Always direct them to your business page. Okay? Because your personal page is where you are going to share controversial things. Your personal page is where you can be personal. That's why people who have like thousands of friends, get out, you insecure person. You do not have thousands of friends. You're like I hate to throw this word out, but you're like a friend prostitute. You will just let anyone be your friend. No. The only people who are your friends on Facebook are the people who you would be friends with in the real world. That's how it should be. It's not a numbers game. It's not a popularity game. Not everyone gets to be your friend, okay? I mean, have some standards here. And so if you really, let me tell you why. There's a psychological reason why you shouldn't have that many friends on Facebook. The more friends you have on Facebook, the less you will post. It's that simple. The more friends you have on Facebook, the less you will post. And that's because you're suddenly realizing, oh, wait, grandma's on Facebook. I can't post that joke. Oh, wait, my boss is on Facebook. I can't make fun of how work was today. Oh, wait, this guy works at that McDonald's that I was going to make fun of on Facebook. Okay. See what I'm saying? The more friends you have on Facebook, the less you will post because you start filtering. You start trying not to make people mad. So I tell people all the time, the only people who should be your friends on Facebook are your friends, your actual friends. And you need to go through there and call out a lot of these Facebook only friends. So my point in all that is you still need to be looking on social media. You still need to be looking at your personal page on Facebook and making sure you're not talking too much controversy. And I'm guilty of that a little bit. I get a little controversial in some of my posts, but I do it on my personal page. Twitter is going to be one of those things where if people are mad about you, this is where they're going to go. They're going to go on Twitter. Oh, Teddy said, I appreciate that confirmation. I try my best to keep my personal and business pages separate. I'm always getting requests to my personal page. Yeah. And here's the thing, Teddy, if you're a good small business owner, you're going to get that. People like you and they think you would be their friend. They think you would be a great friend because you treated them amazingly in your office, or your store. So trust me, you don't want to make everyone your friend. It'll just burn you. So Twitter is probably the most scary place to have your name mentioned. I'm not a big fan of Twitter, using Twitter for business. It got way too political and way too crazy. And also, we're just not seeing a lot of success with businesses using Twitter as an advertising platform. So I would stay away from Twitter with a 12-foot pole with my business. But here's the deal. You need to go on Twitter and every once in a while, check it for anyone talking about you. Check it for anyone talking about your company. Because a lot of times that's where they will go and do it. Okay. One of the easiest ways is through hashtags. Hashtags, if you don't know, is where you remember the old telephones that had little pound signs, like a little tic-tac-toe. Well, we call them pound signs on a phone. Well, they're called hashtags everywhere else now. Okay. Hashtags are a way of describing what you're talking about. There's two reasons we use hashtags, and they're in Instagram and they're even in Facebook too. But a hashtag is simply like what this post is about. There's two reasons we use it. One is to describe it like a category. The other is to be funny, like hashtag can't believe I did that. Okay. Hashtag still laughing. So sometimes it's just a way to be funny, but a lot of times it's hashtag and they'll put a company name in there, which is why I'm bringing this up. So a lot of times you can search for hashtags on your company name and see if people are talking about you. It's just one of the ways you can check. Online reviews. Let's talk about online reviews. This is where people are going online and giving you 1 star, 5 stars, and they're either talking you up or talking you down. What you need to realize, people, and Uncle Eric's going to be honest with you on this, most online reviews you get in this world will be negative. Okay? That's just the way it is. And the reason is this. Most people who love you to death, they don't feel like they have to go online and take all this extra effort to tell people that they love you. They're just happy and they leave happy. But people who are mad want to get back at you. It's a whole vengeful thing. They want revenge. They feel like they've been done wrong and they want to make it right. So I'm gonna tell the whole world how evil they are. So they go online and they do their research while they're angry and gritting their teeth, and they write the most evil, awful things about you. So can we just agree? The majority of online reviews, if just left to chance, left to randomness, if you don't lift a finger to affect this, every online review, just about every online review you're going to get will be negative. Okay? Because the only people willing on their own to go make an online review are angry people. Unless you take control of this and you become proactive. Now, what do I mean becoming proactive? You need to start asking people to review you. Okay? You need to start asking people to review you. But the timing of the ask is key. Now, do not ask for a good review. And whatever you do, do not write fake reviews. Do you hear me? I don't want anyone watching this thinking that I am telling them they should create fake reviews. Do not do that. It will burn you. It will burn you. It will burn you. Let's be honest. Let's be ethical. So when you ask for a review, do you know when the happiest your customer ever will be? I mean, the very happiest. The highest level of happiness they will have as it relates to your company typically occurs at the same time for every customer. Does anyone know when that is? That's right. When they're paying out, when they're buying your service, in that moment, the second they get it, the second they bought that gift, the second they've drove off the parking lot in that car, the second they've signed up, second they've registered, that is the happiest they will ever be with you. That's when you ask, is that the cash route? That's when you ask. And the way you ask can be very simple. You could set up a little computer, a little tablet, something next to it and saying, hey, if you don't mind, if you had a, would you please share your experience? And that's one of the best ways to put it. Don't try to tilt it one way or the other. Would you mind sharing how good how your experience was with us today in a Google review? Or you could send them an email that they could do at home. And what you're going to do is you're going to send them an email that points them to where your Google reviews are. It's basically where your Google business account is. And if you don't know where that is, and you didn't know that you even have a Google account, a Google business account, you need to go see your SBDC right now. You need to talk to Anna or one of these amazing Small Business Development Center counselors right now, because they can help you set that up. Every business out there has the ability to have a Google business account for free, where you go in and put what your hours are, where you're at, fix the map if it's wrong, put categories that you show up for, all that kind of stuff. It's called a Google business account, and your Small Business Development Center counselors can help you get that set up. So here's the deal. That's where all your Google reviews are going to show up, is in that same place. And it is key that you have that account and be in control of that account, because that's what's going to give you the ability to respond. Let's see, I'm getting questions. Oh, okay. Yeah, just my wonderful people saying, hey, just sign up. Here's where you do it. Thank you, Anna. Let's see. Make sure there's no more questions. Oh, okay, here. Teddy asks, is Google My Business the best place to request reviews to? And once they review it, is it okay to share the review? We'll get to that, Teddy. That's a great question. In fact, we'll get to it in the next point. Like I said earlier, you're going to ask people to review you. Do not infer anything to that. Do not say, can you give us a good review? Now, the cool thing is, if you have a little kiosk set up in your business, there is a tiny bit of pressure for them to say something nice. They're already going to be feeling good about you. They haven't had a bad experience yet, but they are going to say something nice about you because they're in your business, and they're probably really, really happy. So your chances of you getting a good review are very good. If you send an email home with them, they may never do it. But a lot of them will, if you make it easy for them. Yelp or Google. People don't do Yelp. Whatever you do, you do Yelp. I'm not a fan of Yelp at all. And mainly it's because of what happened to Yelp. Yelp went through a very serious legal issue about 7 years ago, where it was discovered that if you threw enough money at Yelp, the bad reviews people were making on Yelp about you would disappear. That's right. You could pay to play. And when that news came out, it basically buried Yelp. Yelp is irrelevant, in my opinion. And they don't, Yelp reviews, you probably noticed, Yelp reviews don't even show up on Google anymore. The only reviews people are going to see on a regular basis are Google reviews. So in my opinion, you should only be concerned about Google reviews. And in order to see those, you need to be in charge of your Google business account. And in order to be in charge of it, you have to have created it. And that's why I said, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to call or register in that link in the chat with the amazing Small Business Development Center counselors, and they can do this for free for you, okay? Even if that's all you make an appointment for them with, it's so worth it, okay? Here we go. Let's talk about responding to the negatives, okay? Responding to the negatives. How do you respond to a negative? Because you're going to get a negative online review. You're going to get negative people, and you're going to get negative people in the comment section. Here's the deal. If you're in social media and you make a post and all of a sudden someone just goes in on you and says, oh, y'all are the worst company ever. I tried to blah, 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 and y'all did this, and I will never use y'all again. Y'all are evil, blah, 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 blah. You're going to get that. And you're going to get it as an online review sometimes, a Google review, and you'll get it as a comment on social media. Your goal as a business owner is to take it offline. You've got to get it offline as quick as possible. That doesn't mean I'm not saying erase anything. I'm not saying block them. I'm saying take the conversation offline. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to respond, whether it's an online review like Google review, or whether it's something in social media. You're going to immediately say, hey, I'm so sorry you had that experience. Never apologize for what they're claiming you did. Hear me on this. Don't you ever apologize for what they are claiming that you did. Because if you apologize for that, you're basically admitting you did that, and there could be legal ramifications. And some of y'all are going, well, Eric, but if we messed up, I want to own that. I get that. Apologize for the inconvenience. And if you want to apologize for what happened, do it in person, but do not document it on social media. Just trust me, your lawyer will tell you this. So apologize for the trouble this caused you. Apologize for the inconvenience. Apologize for the experience that they had. So basically, what I would do is if someone just went out, like on an online review, a Google review, best thing to do is say something like this. And you can respond as owner. Did you know you could do that on Google reviews? You can reply as owner. And I would say, hey, I'm so sorry you had this experience. Please reach out to me. Give me a call at my office at this number, or direct message me, or even you direct message them. And what you're trying to do is take it offline, take it out of the public eye. What we don't want is a whole bunch of back and forth comments between you and them. What this does is it easily, number one, in the online review, no one expects you to have solid 5-star reviews across the board. That's no one's perfect like that. But if they see a negative review and they see a reply from the owner saying they tried to help, that actually is a good thing. So I like that. Now on social media, if someone says something garbage about you and you say, I'm so sorry you had that experience, I've reached out to you in a direct message, let's get this figured out. If they don't respond to that direct message and they keep going in on you publicly, block them. Get rid of them. They're just trying to be a troll. You tried to help them, but you do not have to allow your business page on Facebook or your social media account to be a place where they can air all the things they hate about the world. Okay? So try to take it offline. That's why look at the first thing on this page. Take it offline if you can. Testimonials. Now, testimonials are really what you want, because what a testimonial is a chosen review, a review you chose. They actually made it, but it is something good about you. It's a good thing. It's someone giving a testimonial about you. These are great. These people are great. I would highly recommend them. You want those, okay? The thing to remember is that not everything is a good testimonial. Not everything is. And most customers do not know how to give you a good testimonial. Can I just be honest? Most customers have no clue how to give you a good testimonial. And they may say, oh, they have great customer service. I love them to death. Folks, that is the worst testimonial of all. And do you know why? Because customer service no longer has a meaning anymore. Everyone claims to have the best customer service. It means nothing. Don't ever post something garbagey like that. It's a waste of digital space. Good testimonials are short. Don't ever post like a page of, there's multiple paragraphs of someone just gushing about you. No, good testimonial, hear me, 2 to 3 sentences. That's it. 2 to 3 sentences. And that's because, what have I been telling you? Everyone on the internet has ADD and they're lazy, okay? And they're going to be scanning, not reading. So a good testimonial is like 3 sentences max. Also, a good testimonial addresses your competitive advantages. Remember what I said about customer service not being one? That's why. Everyone claims to have it, so therefore it means nothing. It's not a way to measure one company against another anymore. So you're asking, what's a competitive advantage? A competitive advantage is what makes you better than your competition. In other words, something that you do that they don't. Maybe you have cheaper prices. That's your competitive advantage. Maybe you have better ingredients. Maybe you have more store locations. There's something that makes you better. And by the way, a negative about a customer is not your positive. Well, our competitive advantage is we're the only honest ones. No, that is not a competitive advantage. Okay? Your competition's negatives are never your advantage. So think about what makes you better. Okay? And you can't say better employees. That has no meaning. Okay? It's got to be something for people to separate you from everybody else. So you're going to address the testimonial has to address one of those. And don't cheat. Don't you dare write a fake testimonial. You're saying, but Eric, you're saying a good testimonial has to have all these requirements, 2 to 3 sentences, and address a competitive advantage. Do you know how long I'll have to wait to get one of those? Yeah, you probably will never get it. But don't you dare write one and then fake that it's from someone else. Now, having said that, here's how you get them. Listen up, pay attention, because what I'm about to teach you is what all the national companies do. And yes, it is ethical. What I'm about to explain to you may not sound ethical in the beginning. And some of you may think I'm the most evil person in the world and that I'm breaking my own promise I said earlier that you should write them. Follow me to the end and you'll see how they are totally ethical. Okay? Some of y'all are going, ooh, what's he about to say? So here's your homework for tonight. Tonight, I want you to list 5 competitive advantages that your company has over your competition. 5 things that you're better at. 5 things that you can do that they can't. You better be able to come up with 5. Once you write them, then I want you to write 5 testimonials. I want you to write 5 and only 3 sentences at the most, testimonials, 1 for each competitive advantage. Okay? Some of y'all are going, wait, what? You're contradicting yourself, Eric. No, I'm not. I want you to write 5 testimonials, 1 for each competitive advantage. Like if your ingredients are better, a good testimonial might say, I love Eric's Bakery. The ingredients they use are top of the line. I can taste it in every bite. See, that's a beautiful testimonial. You're going to write 5 of them, 1 for each competitive advantage. Then, and this is what makes it ethical, because you're right. If I were to post them at that point, totally unethical. Now you're going to call some of your customers and you're going to say, hey, can I read something to you? And you're going to read them one of the testimonials. And then you're going to say, is this how you feel about us? Can I put your name on that? Is that how you feel about us? Can I put your name on that? And they're going to go, of course. The second you get attribution permission to attribute it to them, from them, it becomes a legitimate testimonial. All you're doing is helping them write what you needed them to write. Once again, it is not ethical unless you get their permission. Got it? And I would recommend putting either just their first name initial, something. If it's someone famous, get permission for their full name so that you get some of that too, if they're famous. So that's how all the national companies do it, because most customers will never give you a good testimonial and you'll sit all day waiting for one. You'll sit all year waiting for one. But if you do what I just told you to do, you'll have 5 great testimonials by tomorrow morning. And then once you have good testimonials, put them everywhere. Put them on your website, put them on social media, everywhere, because what that does is lower the trust barrier. Google searches. People, you got to learn how to Google yourself. You got to learn how to Google yourself. You need to be Googling yourself at least once a month, if not maybe once a week. Okay? And what do I mean by that? It's not that I just want you to type in your company name and see what comes up. I want you to type in your personal name, see what comes up. No, I want you to do something else. The way you can really find out if someone's talking garbage on you is you put, and you're going to laugh when I tell you this, You put your company name and then add the word sucks. That's right, SUCKS. That is the #1 word used in negative reviews. And when people have a hard time with the company, it is the #1 marketing word they use, sucks. So you might say, I'd look up, see what I look up is Eric Spellman sucks. And trust me, it'll make all the bad stuff float to the top. So do that with your company name and do that with your name. You might be surprised what you find. Also, sign up for Google Alerts. It's totally free. Google Alerts, and just Google it and you'll find it. Google Alerts allows that when Google finds something new on the internet, if it mentions something you're interested in, Google will alert you. So for instance, you can put in your company name. So if someone's talking about you, you'll get an alert from Google, usually an email or something, saying, hey, we found something. Something new just came up on the internet. It's wonderful. You can also use this to spy on your competition. Put their company names in as well. That way, when they suddenly show up, you'll see it. Heck, put your ex-wife in there. I mean, well, what did I say? My point is, anything you want to know about, if something new comes up, you can use Google Alerts for that. And do it regularly. Google yourself regularly. We're getting to the point where people are asking, Eric, I don't want some of that bad stuff on Google showing up. So how do we deal with that? You got to understand how Google works. It's all about spider bots. Spider bots are little pieces of software that Google has, and what they do is they crawl around the internet, the web, get it? Spiders on the web. They crawl around the web and they gobble up every word on every page. The only thing that Google really cares about is text, words. And so they gobble up every word on every page and store it back at the mothership, Google. When you search Google, you're not searching the internet. You're searching Google's monstrously huge index of every word on every page, on every website. And then Google spits back the pages that are the most relevant. The key is there's content criteria, okay? You're saying, well, Eric, this bad stuff keeps showing up. How do I get rid of it? Well, here, I'm just gonna be honest with you. You can't get rid of it. All you can do is bury it with good stuff. If the only thing coming up about you or your company is a newspaper article from 10 years ago, or is your mugshot from 5 years ago, that means there's not enough positive out there. That means that's the best Google can find on that search, which means you need to put more out there. But here's the deal. How does Google decide what's good content versus bad? What's good text versus bad text? Well, first of all, Google loves text that is completely unique, does not exist anywhere else on planet Earth. And I've done a whole presentation on this, by the way. In other words, if it's not repeatable, if it's not out there, someone else has already got it on the internet, Google loves it. So make sure that whatever you post, and it could be a blog, it could be description, it could be anything. Blogs are really good, by the way. Make it unique. It shouldn't exist anywhere else on planet Earth. Do not copy paste anything. It's got to be understandable. In other words, it's got to be written at a 5th grade level. Everything on the internet has to be written at a 5th grade level. I don't have time to explain why. You can go back to my previous talks on this, but just understand that what you write has got to be written at a 5th grade level. No big words. Google doesn't like big words. And then you've got to be doing this on a regular basis. If you want your new stuff to keep showing up, pushing the bad stuff out, then you've got to keep adding good stuff, because Google always looks at who has the newest stuff first. So if your 5-year-old mugshot is still showing up, then that means you haven't posted much in the last 5 years about your company or you, and you need to start doing that. These companies that you can pay for reputation management do not have the ability to erase things on the internet. Can I just tell you that? All they're going to do is what I'm telling you right now. Remember, it matters. Your online reputation matters. I've seen companies go out of business because they made a mistake I've listed. Practice restraint in your posting, especially in this very volatile time we live in, where it's easy to just go off on somebody or say something because you're upset. Respond correctly. When people do say something upset, respond correctly. Try to solve it. Don't get mad. Don't have a flame war with them. Create the good to bury the bad. Remember that. The only way to get rid of the bad is to create lots of good. Whew. Questions on anything I've gone over? Anything at all. Okay, here Nicole wrote, how do you get your company's name and reviews to come up on Google before your competition without paying for an ad? Paying for an ad won't even make that happen. A lot of times you really can't control who's going to come up first. We used to think it was based on like the number of stars you had, but really what Google tells us is that it's based on geography. In other words, who's closest. So wherever Google thinks that customer is when they do a search, many times they will get results that are close to them. And if they don't know your address, Google assumes the center of your city. So that's why setting up your Google business account is very important. Okay, but I do hear from Google that sometimes businesses that have more reviews, not what they are, but more reviews than others, Google prefers those over businesses that have no reviews. So that's what we hear. Great question. Any other questions on anything I've gone over? Let's see. Oh, thank you, Teddy.
Mhm. They just love you, Eric.
Oh, well, I love them. They ask such good questions.
Yeah, we've got a thanks, another great webinar. I appreciate your knowledge and experience so much. Love your personality. I would definitely agree with that, Eric. And we've got
Oh,
such good info coming in. Yeah, you're awesome. So just another wonderful presentation, Eric. Thank you all so much for your attendance. And just another reminder to visit our website at nmsbdc.org in order to view our upcoming no-cost webinars or to sign up for our no-cost counseling services. We're here to help you during any stage of your business, so please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And the thank yous just keep rolling in. Thank you,
and
Eric. Very useful.
don't forget to tell them that they will. You'll be able to give them access to this full presentation.
Yes, the slides are coming your way via email, and I will also let you know where you can view this presentation again. So all of that will be coming to you via email. No need to copy and paste anything that was chatted in. You'll probably get that early next week just to let you know. And yeah, lastly, just another of many thank yous that says your presentations are awesome. So thank you everyone so much. And Eric, thank you, thank you. We cannot thank you enough, as you can see.
My pleasure. Y'all have a great one.
Take care, everyone.